We're good.
Yeah.
And we're live.
Are we? Are we live?
Yeah, we're live.
Oh, all right.
Nice.
Hey, welcome back, guys. Just back to the First Draft podcast, and yeah, we've got some interesting topics tonight. How are you guys doing?
I'm doing
Good.
okay.
All right, sweet. All right, cool. This first topic. Obviously, we're gonna do the "Am I overreacting?" This is kind of delves into what's been going on in popular culture, some political stuff. So I'm gonna go ahead and read this out, and I want to know your all's take on it. It does have to do with education, religion, a lot of stuff we discuss here on the podcast.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. So I don't know the background of this person at all. The OP says. So recently, I posted a question on the dismantling of the education department by current administration since I am not American and wanted to know more about the same. Learned so much from that, but there was this guy who proposed Darwin as a religion and that as a basis for inculcating religion in school curriculum. And there was a couple quibbles about the wording of this to make sense of it, but I'm going to bring that up after I read the rest of it. He says, nothing against religion, but did I overreact to it? I'm quite touchy on the subject since I deal with science every day and many people who keep trying to take Ayurvedic stuff for something as serious as diabetes. Sorry if this hurts anyone's sentiments. Not my intention. So, very short topic.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a little confused over, he said, learned so much from that, but there was this guy who proposed Darwin as a religion, and that is a basis for inculcating religion in school curriculum. So, is he criticizing, I'm sorry, this is his reaction to someone else who is, I guess, arguing
making a claim that
Darwinism
is
a religion, so you should be able to allow religion into schools.
Yeah, that's what I got from it.
Oh, that makes sense.
That's what I like. If you can allow this thing, which can technically or categorically be assigned the definition of a religion, then why can't we teach other religions in school?
Yes,
and I think that's where he's separating it, because I think he's classifying Darwin's theory of evolution as science and not religion.
Yeah.
So I think that's where there's a gap in the.
So that's what I'll read the core sentence again because I had to reread this a couple times to realize exactly like what is his argument here. He said, I learned very much about the dismantling of the Department of Education, but there was this guy who proposed Darwin as a religion and that as a basis for inculcating religion in school curriculum.
I think that's what they're saying, what you all said.
Mm-hmm. That he's using, the guy he was talking to is using Darwinism as an argument for why it should be okay.
Can we get a definition of what Darwinism is, just so we're clear? I mean, I'm pretty sure
evolution,
we all know that, but just for our viewers and just so I want to see what like the interwebs classified as, or say what it is.
The theory of the evolution of species by natural selection advanced by Charles Darwin.
Okay, cool.
So basically, his book, his what quintessential text, the natural origin of species, whatever it's called. It's like early 1800s, 1807, 1810, something like that.
Yes.
As far as I know, a lot of it has been disproven. Whatever. There's a whole literature on the relationship between Darwinism, creationism. I mean, it's used as a basis of science. Even Watson and Crick, when they sequenced the human genome in 1950s, I guess, they disproved some of his theories, but he proposed theories, and it actually introduces a broader question, which is how should we teach theories about how the world works?
When it comes to science,
theories?
Yeah. No, go ahead.
Yes, I would say as theories,
rather than as facts.
But then we also run into a problem too, because at some point a lot of science stuff was considered theoretical.
It
is considered
theoretical.
Yeah,
but it still works. You know,
we still have to decide.
it still works enough. Like Newton's law of gravity works well enough, but when you scale out, it kind of, you can't really use it anymore because you have to use Einsteinian, you have to use modern physics to model the universe. So it's like they both, even though they're both in conflict with each other, just like we discussed, I think in episode 3 or 4, how quantum physics is in conflict with relativity, they still have proper use cases in certain scenarios, but that does undermine the endeavor of science.
Well, one thing I learned this week, actually, I can't remember where I read it at. I would have to look it up, or where I heard it at. But the thing about theory, or good theory, is that with that theory, you can't only come up with an explanation of what has already occurred, but at that point, you can try to propose or basically foresee a future outcome. That's how you separate what is good theory versus bad theory, because now you can use it as a predictor, or to predict future behavior or phenomenon or actions or outcomes or occurrences, for lack of a better word.
Yep.
Once you come to a theory where you can't predict what's going to happen, then it may be bad theory.
Yeah, and your modeling may be bad too. And
it could be.
Yeah, I would say the mark of a really good scientist is someone who is able to use the a priori kind of philosophical method to accurately predict the future. And subsequently and retroactively, if you engage in scientific endeavors and your predictions do turn out false, you probably should be discredited as a representative of your discipline and of your study.
But you have to conduct that study.
But they still get platformed, which is problematic.
Yeah, but you have to conduct that study multiple times, just like in my case with the Poisson method. Like his theory is sound mathematically, but it's not always completely true. And I've used that to plug in.
Well, that's the nature of statistics. It's not always true. It's true in a certain...
Like, it's not 100% predictive. Like, over millions of sets of data, it's pretty accurate, but...
Yeah. So, Blanca, what do you think about this? Sorry, that's very open-ended.
But about the question that the person is asking, if they overreacted or something?
Yeah, he wants to know if he overreacted. I guess there was a guy who was arguing...
I don't know if he overreacted because I don't know what his response was. But if he just stated his response and it was in opposition to what the guy said, and then no, you didn't overreact. That's your opinion.
Yeah, that's his position.
And it sounds like he just posted a question. Mm-hmm.
So,
but maybe the bigger question is Darwinism a religion?
But I'd
like to explore that. Yeah.
Go further into what I do think is, I think that the guy, that if he did talk about Darwinism as a religion, as a basis for allowing religions in schools, if that was me, I wouldn't have to need Darwin as propose that as well. We use Darwinism and that's a religion. If my opinion is that religion should be allowed in school, that would just be my opinion. I wouldn't need to I don't know what the word is, but
attach it to any scientific theory.
Attach it to any other reason for me having my opinion. I wouldn't need to justify my opinion with anything else other than, this is my opinion. Like it or don't, take it or leave it. I don't care if Darwinism is a religion or it's scientific. Like, that wouldn't even be a factor in justifying my opinion. So
I like that.
So I think that, and the reason that I wouldn't is because I think that's the part where if the person feels like they overreacted, maybe they didn't overreact by what they said, but maybe they felt internally like they overreacted, but that might be because it felt a little manipulative to use, well, Darwin is a religion, so we should allow it. I think drop off the Darwinism religion, just say we should allow it. If that's what you believe, that's what you believe.
I think he was trying to hinge his argument based upon like legal constraints. Like, well, this is the only way I can push this agenda, and so let me. In his mind,
but it's not. Like, your opinion is enough. Your opinion is okay. You don't have to have anything to hinge your opinion on.
He's being really mild mannered, and I don't think English is his first language, as he mentions. Like he's
kind of tell that because
he's
he
from
would have said
somewhere
because
else.
he would have said Darwinism instead of just like he
Yeah.
tried to propose Darwin as a really like.
So he might have even put it through a translator to get this. I don't know.
That's
Didn't he
fair.
say he was foreign?
Yeah,
No,
he's
but
not
he-
American.
He said he's not American, and he mentioned, this is the other key sentence. He says he's quite touchy on the subject because he deals with science every day. So I'm guessing he's like maybe in the
Science
medical profession,
Yeah.
because he says he deals with people who keep trying to use Ayurvedic, more holistic health methods when he's trying to address serious things like diabetes, that's a whole other conversation.
But let me say this: Are we talking about diabetes 1 or diabetes 2? Because they
Two.
are two
He-
totally
different
different
things.
You know
things.
that you know
we're
he's
not going to
talking
go
about-
down the rabbit hole of diabetes.
No, we're not. We're not.
I think he's obviously talking about
Talking about
diabetes
diabetes
2.
No, he's talking about diabetes too.
I think so.
Diabetes 2. Yeah, because
Yeah, where
nobody
people-
would
where
do
people make a choice.
Ayurvedic for diabetes 1. You're
Right,
right. It's
right.
diabetes 2 he's talking
Yeah.
about.
So I think
Which,
that's
That's a whole topic.
that
that
is
is a whole
actually an interesting topic. Like if how holism, which is a species of, oh gosh, that's a whole other topic.
Okay,
I don't
yeah.
want to go. Yeah,
Don't.
holism and holistic medicine, and even looking at something in a holistic fashion.
Yes.
I guess that is what Ayurvedic medicine seeks to do.
Okay.
But Ayurvedic medicine is a lot about like the herbs and stuff, like in India. Like it really is.
That's part of holism. But diabetes is a very specific issue, which is a thermodynamics issue, which is hard science, which is not.
Which is what you're trying to get
I
to.
don't
Which is what you're trying to
necessarily-
get to.
So basically, what I'm trying to say is that they almost operate on totally different epistemologies.
I get that, but that's what he's
So
trying
what
to
do you teach
present.
when you're trying to help somebody?
Right, but that's
What
what
do you
he's
teach in
saying. He's
schools?
saying like I deal with science every day,
Mm-hmm.
and so I don't necessarily take a religious approach to how I operate under scientific parameters. And so I think this guy is trying to take this particular stance out of the parameters of scientific knowledge, and I got a little testy about it. I challenged him on it because it's like I deal with this in my field every day.
But
And
at the same time, if this guy is putting down Ayurvedic medicine, I don't care about that. But it sounds like he also may be putting down maybe other things like diabetes 2 is a metabolic condition that's directly related to what we ingest. So if he's thinking
consumption based,
that there's medicines like metformin for diabetes 2 and sometimes insulin, if you think that those are the only two options and you're not looking at it from a holistic point of view, because the number one thing that can reverse diabetes 2 is reversible 100%, but because it's a metabolic condition. So if he's not acknowledging that part, then he is overreacting probably to everything in his life that seems to go against science.
Okay, that's a good.
That's a
that's a good.
Yeah,
that's.
And
nice.
he didn't
I
go
like
into
the way you put that.
his diabetes approach or anything. I don't even know if he's a doctor or not. I'm assuming he kind of is, or he's in the medical
or something.
Yeah, he's in that.
Could be a student too. He could still be
on
his
an
educational journey.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why he's asking this question, because he was obviously, I don't want to say obsessed, but he was obviously intrigued about what we did here with the Department of Education. I wanted to understand it. So that makes me think he has some attachment to education.
Yeah.
Well,
right.
I would like to clarify.
Why would he ask?
Well.
I mean, especially with him not being a citizen.
Without even thinking about it, and just look, 2020 hindsight. That's what I meant.
Hindsight is 2020.
Yeah, I was thinking he was a student. Like, I guess I was assuming because of the education thing.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. This is well.
I mean, is there something that the guy responded with and tried to, like, is there something in the Reddit?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I do
think that going back onto what I was saying, sometimes I feel like I'm gonna speak this guy that was offending him sounds like he was probably more conservative, wanted religion in school, likely Christianity, right? Let's just assume all those things.
They were in foreign countries,
Let's just presuppose all those things.
Okay.
If that's the case, sometimes I feel like, conservatives shoot themselves in the foot because they want to, like I was saying earlier, they want to hinge on like other things other than what their morality is.
I
And
agree
it's
with
like,
that.
you don't need, I don't care if this certain scientist, it's not that I don't, but sometimes maybe I don't care if this certain scientist or researcher believes that God exists. Like that is not, that scientist belief is not a
That's not the
basis.
biggest proving
It's
point
not
for
the
you.
basis for my argument, and it doesn't prove or disprove my argument. And sometimes, like, I feel like conservatives or religious or Christian people can sometimes hit, like, rely on that too much and put that in the forefront. And it's like, I don't need a biologist, I don't need a neurosurgeon necessarily to believe in, faith for me to sound more intellectual, so someone will listen to me, to believe, like, to pay attention to what my faith is, so maybe they'll consider it.
I
Sometimes
get
it's
that.
just like, who cares about that? It's your faith, it's
It's your
your opinion,
subjective.
it's your belief.
Yeah.
And I think that it backfires, because if I was thinking, if I'm on the other end and I'm not believing any of these things, if I'm agnostic or atheist, that would kind of get on my nerves. Like, tell me your opinion. I don't care if this scientist or this biologist, what they think about it, and they agree with you, and like they're a studied person. It's not that I don't care, but sometimes it's us Christians can rely too much on that to sound intellectual, because we know that faith sometimes, to those who don't believe, for example, can sound like foolishness, you know? So
I get
I
that.
think that kind of may be part of the reason why it, like, triggered him. It can trigger people when you're doing something that
So who
may
was
seem,
triggered? The OP or the guy
the
that?
OP.
Okay.
The OP was triggered. I think that if the other guy just said, I think we should have religions in school, I don't think he would have been as, he maybe would have been triggered, but maybe not as triggered, because it almost feels manipulative, like to say, well, if Darwinism is a religion, then we should have religions in
Yeah.
schools. It's like, you're being a little manipulative when you say that. It's
climbing a
maybe
ladder
not,
a
but
little
it
bit.
feels like
It's
it.
climbing a ladder a little bit. I mean, it's kind of like one of our
It's like,
previous podcasts where we talked about certain things being religion or not,
Yeah. Yeah.
Like he messes with me and says being a fan of a sports team is a religion. I don't think it is a religion in my point of view. And I know you're just
like, it could
being
be
facetious.
idolatry. It could be idolatry.
Maybe that's a better word.
Maybe, but it's not a religion.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I didn't say.
No,
religion,
I'm
Chris,
clarifying.
yeah.
And I do think it's a little bit tongue in cheek, and I do believe it's a little hyperbolic, and I do
It's
think
hyperbolic,
it's a
for
little
sure.
bit sarcastic in a certain
Yeah.
way. But I think it's the
Yeah.
same principle as what this guy is trying to, like, the guy that responded to the
I
OP
think you're
is
right,
trying
yeah.
to do the same thing. He's trying to push his button by saying, well, isn't Darwinism a religion? So if Darwinism is a religion, then why can't we have, it's like he's like pushing
I've done it. I've
pushing
done
it
it.
to the
We've all
extreme.
done it.
Well, I think
at certain.
Let me bring it back to I think episode 3, when we discussed secular religions, which is a paradox in and of itself. I think that this is a great encapsulation of that, because we were discussing things that have secular veneers, but have secular veneers, but have religious underpinnings.
Yes, I get that.
And that is where there's a deception and a manipulation kind of thing going on, because people think, oh, well, this is, empirically studied, and you can deduce this rationally, and some, maybe parts of it you can, but with your average person, you can manipulate the data, the science, the statistics, the optics. You can appeal to their emotions. You can manipulate everything, which delves into the topic of propaganda. You can manipulate everything to make it seem like it is just a legitimate scientific endeavor, where we are just exploring the world as it is. And little do you know that there is an entire phenomenological metaphysics undergirding all of it, which rejects maybe the methods that you, me, all of us, we're trying to find out how the universe works. So
Yeah. Nice. I like
yeah,
that.
a lot of questions to be raised from this.
So we need to answer the question: is he
yeah.
overreacting? I don't think so.
I don't think he is.
Yeah,
I don't
think
know
he
enough
is.
to know if he is or not.
He
I
didn't
don't know what
scream and
he
curse,
said.
so I think he's
Probably not, if it's his opinion.
Yeah.
He said he just posted questions, but I guess because he's not from here, he thought that might have been too
too
offensive.
controversial,
Yeah,
too offensive,
controversial. But
yeah.
I think it's pretty.
And I think sometimes we can feel like we overreact, not because of what we put out there, but what we're thinking. And so we're like, did I overreact? And it's like, well, not with what you put out there, but if you're going to ask me what your thoughts are, maybe I don't know what your thoughts were.
Well, even people's reactions,
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, is that like, okay, I don't know. Do you think you overreacted?
I
You
like
know.
that. I like
Oh,
that.
Lord.
I like that.
Even people's reaction, you don't want them to. You start to feel when people start to feel bad.
Yeah.
You're like, maybe I was doing a little too much there. But,
Right.
Yeah.
But all right, well,
That's it.
cool. That was all right. Hey, welcome back, guys.
Let's go.
Yep, this is the back to first draft. We concluded our first topic with what was it? The education system. I do want to touch on that later, but there's something that piqued our interest in the interim, which was tipping culture.
Tipping culture.
This is something that I'm sure it has been maybe at the forefront of some of your all's minds. It pervades a lot of instances in our life now where it was just, it used to be relegated to restaurants, and now it's a you encounter it all the time now. And there's been a couple commentators who discuss it, but I'm going to, there's a John Oliver, I suppose. He did a segment on it, and I think we're going to respond to his stuff tonight. He's a very popular guy. I don't care for him, but that's a topic for another day.
Another topic.
So, yes, he says it's unlikely to ever go completely away. John Oliver targeted the problems associated with tipping culture in the U.S. on his weekly show. On his show, he said that people are fed up, with 3 in 4 believing that tipping culture has gotten out of control.
Wow.
He gave some examples of laughable situations, including a mortgage company asking for a tip and an impound lot doing the same after a car was towed. That's crazy, and
that's insane.
I question if that actually happened or not, but whatever. Donald Trump made a bold promise to eliminate taxes on tips for workers, and right now lawmakers are deciding whether or not this proposal will make it into the budget. It's a very American practice, with wait staff around the world often acting confused when visitors try to tip. You know a country's in pretty good shape when they turn down free money, he said.
Really? That's interesting.
Yeah, it's obviously it's a slight against the current presidency, even though whatever. Okay. Yes. Oliver said there had consistently been pushback against tipping, and while nowadays tipping is everywhere, he added that it can seem like no one understands the rules on when and how much to tip.
No one?
Maybe the majority. Maybe the majority.
He's using hyperbolic.
Yeah.
He's a talk show host, so he's using hyperbolic language here.
He's trying to have a hot take.
Mm-hmm. He said that some consumers are opting out of the system altogether, although protesting it by stiffing your server is about as effective as protesting police budgets by flipping off a police dog.
Yeah, that's a weak analogy.
Yeah. And I think everything else is... Yeah. So that is the issue. As a tipped employee myself, I actually, and as someone who doesn't like John Oliver, I completely sympathize with him. I understand why the tipping culture is getting out of hand. You have it's supposed to be for service, and it's for I don't even know what it's for anymore. I will still do it for my, especially for my neighborhood people. If I'm going up the street, the coffee shop, the donut shop, the
Maybe a place you go to on a regular
on a
basis.
regular basis, the bar or something, then I will tip uh, generously. But if
Oh,
I'm
you
in a
won't just tip like $1. Like you'll tip generously when you don't have to, just because they're your
so
neighborhood people.
so it yes, if it's in my vicinity and my proximity where these are people I may interact with,
So you just want to give them free money?
I don't mind doing that. If they're people who I know live in the community, I don't mind giving them, hey, between you and I in the community, here's an extra $3, $5, $10,
And he's
and I
also
always do it in
talking about
cash. Always do it in cash.
under the guise of cash is what I was going to say. Like,
Yeah.
because then it becomes untraceable and not and
But
exempt from
But I
regardless,
taxable
you
when
income.
tip.
I travel, I'll 20%, which is an acceptable tip. I'm probably not.
Acceptable, that's good.
That's a good tip.
Yeah,
Yeah,
twenty
that's not
percent
just
is
acceptable, that's good.
Yeah, I'll tip 20% when I travel, and because I know I'm never going to see those people again. But for neighborhood people, yeah, I don't mind giving them 20.
Why
what I
though? I
wanted.
don't give my neighbors money just because they're my neighbors or people that
He's
like.
saying like establishments within his neighborhood,
No,
not
but I
just.
know, but these are establishments that tipping is not necessary. Well, so why are you
Well,
doing
he
it?
said it
Just
like a
because.
bar. Like if we go to a bar and we go watch like a game.
Okay, the bar is different because you have to tip. But I thought you were
Yeah.
talking about like getting coffee at a place and you don't have to tip. You still tip them because they're in your neighborhood.
Well, it is prompted upon you, so they even though it's not obligated or obligatory, they do give you they flip the screen around and ask you
Yeah.
to tip, and so I do. Sometimes I'll.
My thing is, I thought, well, I'm not trying to totally age myself, but I thought there was a time where 15% was an acceptable tip, and I'm feeling like we've kind of gotten away from that. And I
Well, I
want to
feel
know if
like
that
15% is still acceptable.
that's what I wanted to get feedback from you all is like because it seems like it's been pushed up to 20%, and I think that's where some people are having an issue with it because it's like, well, if the minimum is 20%, in order for me to
I
seem
thought
like
the
I gave a good
minimum.
tip, now I got to start going above that to like
Yeah.
show that I'm, I don't know, not necessarily in the club, but
Yeah.
doing the right thing. Like, does it become a badge of morality or ethics at that point, or like what?
Virtue signaling.
I'm sure some
I
people
feel
do
that
do it
way.
like that.
I feel
After
that
a
way.
certain point,
It could
you know,
be.
people can do 20%. That's fine. But you're if you're doing more than that on a large amount, it just starts to feel like you're virtue signaling. Like, look at me,
like
I'm
that.
a good tipper. And it's like, do what you want within
Oh,
like certain
yes.
bounds, but within after that, this range and that range, right? Because people should be okay to have ranges of tipping. But after a certain amount, if you're getting to, like the example I gave earlier, you go to a fine dining establishment, your meal for two people is 200 and
Just give a flat rate.
let's say $200,
Yes.
right?
Sure.
Let's just say 200, and then you feel like, or you leave 25%. How much is that? 20, 40, 50.
That's $50.
That's
Right?
$50. That doesn't necessarily mean you're virtue signaling, but like for me, I probably wouldn't leave $50. I'd probably leave 40.
40.
Well, and isn't tipping, forgive me, and maybe I'm wrong, you can edge it, isn't tipping supposed to be merit based too? Like if I feel like
Yes.
if you went above what I expected,
But how much
I can-
above can you do? You're serving me my food for an hour. You're bringing me. You're not cooking my food.
I'm just
You're
saying if you
not like
made my
sprinkling gold
experience
dust on
better.
it.
I'm just saying if you made my experience
True,
better.
true.
Or maybe you made my experience worse. So maybe you deserve
15.
less. Maybe you deserve less than 15.
But like, oh, less than 15?
Maybe.
Yeah.
If
No,
you
that's
if you harmed my experience, like if you
Yeah. I haven't thought about that. I haven't been to
Me and
too
Ellie
many.
me and my daughter traveled to Denver, and we went to a restaurant, and this guy totally messed up our entire experience. Like
How so?
I mean, I don't want to go down a rabbit hole.
No, but
It would
just
take a
like, did
he
he mess
just
up? Like, did he put your wrong order in?
well,
Like,
for one, they were giving us special. He tried to push the special on us. We did not want the special. We told him, hey, we're from out of town. We came here. This is our first time at this restaurant. We want this, this, and this. And he got upset.
he got
He got
upset.
upset about it and was like trying to tell us, basically trying to force us to get the special. And then he put in our order, and both of our orders were wrong. And then
Yeah.
after that, he was upset with the fact, he was like, well, if you would have ordered the special, then your order would have came out right. And it was just like
What
a
is
whole
this?
thing.
Oh
And
man.
it went downhill fast.
Did y'all
And the
leave a
food
tip?
wasn't that good.
Did y'all leave a tip?
I still tipped him 15%. I didn't tip him 20.
Yeah,
I still tipped him 15.
yeah,
And I tipped him in cash.
that's good.
Yeah.
You did good.
But if he would have did good, I probably would have been pushed it up to the 20 or 25, just because when you're on vacation, you're in that mood, you want to
Yeah.
feel, you know.
I
So,
just know, like, this might be an unpopular opinion, but like, I'm not trying to just give money away either.
No.
You know, I got a
Like, I
budget.
think it should be merit-based. Like,
I
is it
got
good or
other
not?
people in my life that need money, and you know, like, if you're doing a good job, I will do anywhere between 15 and 20% and be good. Like, we're good. We're good. There's no reason for me to like give extra. Somebody can say, well, it's only $3-4 extra.
No, that
It doesn't
counts.
matter
That
if it's
counts.
$3-4
That
extra.
counts.
It's
I
like
agree with you.
I don't have to.
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree with you.
yeah, and that's what begs the question. You know, what is an appropriate tip, and what should the server be expecting, and what is the customer expected? What is expected of them? It's a weird kind of dichotomy where it places so much pressure on both parties
Wow.
to where they both have to do these weird performances when it really should just be like, I'm just here to enjoy myself, and you know, just
Make it easy for me.
just make it easy for me. And then the server should be like, and the server on their part should be like, you're at our house, this is not your house, so this is how we do things here, so you need to be kind of flexible with how you like your meals and your arrangements and stuff like that. And we're gonna make it presentable, but you know, it should be a give and take kind of thing, and it's totally been perverted. And I think that's
a strong word for tipping.
I mean, perverted, not like
no, I know what you
sexually
mean.
or anything.
No,
like
I know,
that.
I knew that.
But I mean, perverted, like,
I knew that, but I'm just saying,
like disjointed from its original purpose.
Yeah,
and that's where I think there's a lot of issues going on with it, and it's.
I do have one observation, but I want to ask you if you think it's accurate or not. From what I see that people who are dining are always not always. Most of the people that dine in establishments are extremely gracious and really good tippers.
Oh yeah.
Okay, that's what I see from most people. So if that's the case, if I was a server, right, I would basically have this mindset ahead of time. The average is what matters. Correct. You know, because if I'm going to focus
I completely agree with
because
that.
if I'm going to focus on like each
individual
single table
interaction,
and then out of, you know, 20 tables that night, 3 of them like tip me horribly, right? If I'm focused on the average, I'm going to be okay. If I'm focused on each individual, then my emotions are going to be like this, you know? And it's like, sometimes people are just jerks. But from what I've seen, 90% of the people are extremely patient with servers, not with servers, with the situation when food is late. Extremely gracious with even
most
if something.
People, the majority,
90%. That's what I said. 90% as an example. Most of them extremely gracious when something is wrong. You don't get like miffed about it. You're like, okay, it's okay. Just get us what the right thing. And 3, like gracious with the tip. That's just what I've seen. It's I hardly
That's a good
have
point.
been with people of all socioeconomic statuses where I see somebody just be like easily annoyed with the waiter,
I
tip
have.
bad, or be ungracious when something messes up. Most of the time, I see people that are designing like doing their part to do their part
They all do, for the most part.
for the most
And
part.
You do have exceptions to the rules.
Yeah,
though.
no, obviously. That's
yeah,
why I
but
said
it's
the majority of
Yeah.
what I see.
and
That's why I'm asking somebody who
Mhm.
is a server, who's in the, and if I was a server, I would focus on the average for my night, not like be super worried about these 3 tables, and because there's just, if you have 10 tables, count on at least one of them being like super under tippers,
Yeah.
for sure.
It
Yeah.
does suck. It doesn't mean you can't have an emotion about it. Don't just
Yeah.
be good looking at your whole. If
I
you
agree.
made out with $400 that night, there is no reason for you as a server to be mad.
Yes. I mean, he knows more of that answer, but
I think yes, that's exactly right, because it's even more rare than what you say it is. You adjusted for 3 to 4 tables a night, giving you less than 20%. It's that probably happens over, like, if you do the bare minimum, you might have 3 to 4 tables tip you less than 20% over 2 weeks.
right.
It's so rare. Like, it
Like if
doesn't
you
even
worked 5 days
It's
a
so
week or
rare.
something like that.
Yeah, I mean, everyone has already been conditioned into that
Yeah.
20% is what you should tip, and you usually get it is if you do what is required of you, and maybe you go a little bit extra, and
Or
some
at
people
least
get
just do it with happiness and
Yeah,
joy, because
with
that's
joy.
what
Yeah,
people
yeah.
want. Like,
Yeah.
they don't want to come in there in a good mood and you're a Debbie Downer or a
Mm-hmm.
that or whatever,
Just
Yeah.
and you bring
sourpuss.
Yeah.
you bring down the mood of the night for them
Oh
or
yeah.
the table.
That's
So, and then even if something is not right, most people are not like gonna freak out about that.
Yeah.
They're like,
Yeah.
okay, it doesn't matter.
it's not the
We're
end of the
here
world.
anyway.
It's not the end of the
We're
world.
here anyway. It just means I get to hang out with my friend an extra 15 minutes
Yeah.
Yeah.
longer. It's like nothing. It's okay. So yeah.
I guess what I wanted to add, there are, which what I think this article is trying to go into, there are
Mhm.
other instances of tipping, whether it's appropriate or not, outside of the dining experience.
Yes,
and
that's what I
actually,
want to.
Yes.
Yes,
and I
Let's talk
actually,
about that.
and I actually have an
Yes.
Yeah.
anecdotal experience that kind of threw me off in a way. I wanted to tip. Actually, so I needed to get my like when we got that cold weather, I had to get my battery changed in my
Mhm.
car, and I didn't
Right.
realize that AutoZone, when you buy the battery, they have a policy where they're actually required to change it themselves, and I didn't know that.
Mm.
And so I got caught in a conundrum because I felt like I should have tipped the guy that helped me change my battery, but I looked up their policy. They're not allowed to get tips. They can actually get
And I'm-
fired if they
Okay.
accept a tip. So like
That makes sense. I
there
would have
goes the
never
shit.
felt that way, that I would have to give a tip on the battery.
Well, I just wanted to get you all's opinion, and like obviously there are infrastructures in our society where tipping is not necessarily allowed. Matter of fact,
Another situation where I just realized tipping wasn't allowed, and I really thought that it would be in this case, is when you do Kroger pickup and you pay $4.95
You
and they
can't-
do all your grocery shopping,
you
they
can't
are
tip
not
that.
allowed to
take
accept tips. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Which I'm fine with, but in that situation, I feel like if
if
anyone
a
deserves
person
a
wants
tip,
to,
it's that person
Yeah.
who's doing all my grocery shopping, but they're not allowed to. They can get in trouble. But so it is always good to check. But it was surprising to me that they weren't.
it is
Now the
surprising.
AutoZone thing, I would never have thought to tip, because it's like it's a 2-second thing for them. They're so quick with it, and
Not for this.
Not my experience, but
not yours.
It
really?
well, it was cold.
a
It was
little
when
more
we had that
involved.
snow. It was.
I
When
helped
I
them
mean,
out on
that's
that,
a whole.
yeah.
I don't want to go down a rabbit hole,
But yeah.
and there's always exceptions to the rule. Like I said, my situation is totally anecdotal and just
Yeah.
Certainly,
an
yeah.
instance of probably a large. Most of the times it's probably pleasant weather, and it does just take them 2
Yeah.
seconds.
Mhm.
But
Now I did actually. I said that, but I did need new taillights a year and a half ago. It was for my Jeep, and it was, so the guys, I asked them, these two older men that worked there, if they could replace it for me since I bought it. They're like, yeah, let's go look at it. And it was kind of difficult to do because of the way anyway, it didn't take them long at all. But between the two of them, it still took them like 10 minutes. And they replaced the springs on my, what is it, the hatch that wouldn't stay up.
Yeah,
Oh,
the back
yeah.
hatch. Yeah.
And I guess I was feeling extra generous that day because I was like, I want y'all to have $20. And that's not chump change for
Right.
being
No.
out there 10 minutes and it's part of their job.
Yeah, a crisp 20.
And it was
yeah.
AutoZone, and they shouldn't have accepted, but they did.
But they accepted
I
it.
was happy that they did, and I was good with it. But they tried to not accept it, and I was like, "No, please, I want you all to." It
Well,
would
the
make
reason,
me happy.
well, now you know the reason why was because they're technically not, like, they can actually. I went on a Reddit thread where people have gotten, like, lost their job over it. For
Well,
like $10, you lose your job
That's
over it.
crazy.
Well, the thing is that you can, and this is the thing that is, there's always a understructure of everything. If you actually felt compelled to tip someone, you could, if you carried cash around with you, you could tip whoever you wanted to. You could tip the doorman, you could tip the bellhop, you could tip the
postman?
Uber driver, Postmates,
The
you could
Amazon
tip
driver.
the Amazon
I
driver.
said the postman, not Postmates. The postman, like, for
You can tip
dropping.
whoever you want. If it's in cash, then there's nothing stopping you.
But should you?
It depends. That's up to everyone's own discretion.
Okay.
If I lived, I'll say this: if I lived in a community where I wanted to stay there for the next 5 to 10 years, I would probably, for the little price of giving, a $5 or $10 bill to the people who did services for me,
That's
that
not a
little
bad
price.
outlook.
That's not a little price, though, because if you consider you go there 2-3 times a week, if that's what you're talking about,
Hmm.
and it's
I mean,
$10, that's 30, 60, 90, that's $120 a month. That's not a little price.
I pay, well,
But are you talking about like
what
you're
is
getting your
Netflix
coffee?
a month?
Are you
Like,
talking about you're getting your coffee and they give it to you? Or are you talking about
mm-mm.
dining
Like somebody
in?
cutting your grass,
Or are you talking about dining in? What are you talking about specifically?
Basically whatever I could afford. I would definitely.
No, but what service are you talking about?
For anything. I mean, especially in a capitalistic society, you can purchase whatever service you want, and then just they give you their prices, and
So
it's up
the
to your
guy,
discretion
if
if you
a
want to give
guy
them tips or
came
not.
and cut your grass, you would tip him? That would be crazy talk right there.
I
You
could
would
be
basically
I could be convinced to give him more money than what he charged.
and that would, you
If he
know why
charged me
that would be a
$40,
bad idea?
I could be
No.
convinced to give him 50.
Because then he's gonna start charging more.
Yes, he is. That's a bad
Maybe.
idea. And because he's going to charge, that's going to ripple effect on everyone else on your street. And that he's going to be like, maybe I should start charging
maybe-
50.
maybe
There are
get-
some things where
okay.
I don't think you should. If they give you their price and it's cutting grass, that's how much you're getting.
So this
period.
is how tipping culture can have a negative impact
Yeah,
on society.
you could be doing your neighbors a disservice that get their grass cut by him.
Except that he's not soliciting me for the tip. What
It
if
doesn't
he
matter.
he's like, hey, this is my price, and he's
Then
like,
give him his
$40?
price. Don't give him more.
What if I say, hey, I think you do a good job, and
Bad
maybe you should
idea.
prioritize me over other people.
Bad idea.
So here's an extra 20.
I think that's a bad
Cash.
idea. When it comes to things like
It
when
benefits
comes
him.
to-
It benefits me.
No, when it comes to, I'm gonna tell you right now, if you own a home, when it comes to any contracting services
You
or
should not
any
tip them.
no, you should not tip. It sounds like a great idea, but I'm telling you, you're just creating a scene where eventually it's going to cause them to be like, huh. And it's like eventually gonna get, you use them again, it might get you ripped off. Your neighbors start using them, might get them ripped off. It just doesn't work because those
Wow. I
jobs
never thought
are
about it like
very
that.
subjective. Those jobs are subjective to like a lot of people, they know they're supposed to get 3 estimates. A lot of people don't. If a price sounds okay and they need it fast and they just need it, they're gonna, get it done. If a contractor comes in and there's somebody who's like making him think, maybe I'm not charging enough. Maybe let me just whatever price I'm gonna say, let me add 30% to it, see if I can get it because he's tipping me all the time. I'm telling you, there are certain industries. especially anyone that does any type of remodeling or landscaping or anything to do with the home,
Yeah, home with
I
the
would
home.
say do not tip. Give them the price they ask you for, and a thank
And
you,
end the transaction there.
end the transaction there. Not even like 1%. Don't tip. Don't tip.
I mean, like, I haven't gone to my barber in a few months, but when my barber used to come here, I used to tip him, and I tipped him like probably
Good amount.
30%. But he came to my house. Like
Oh.
most barbers don't come to your house.
For the same price?
Well, he was charging like probably what I would go pay for at a barbershop, what his base price was. But he wasn't able to, he didn't have a rental spot at a barbershop yet. So he was traveling to all I wasn't prioritizing. I wasn't the only one that he was doing that favor for.
Right.
You know, I went to last thing, and then
But I
know
just
we
felt
gotta wrap
compelled to
this
give him
up.
a little bit extra just because it's like, dang, I don't even have to leave my house, bro.
Okay,
and I
get
hate
it.
that.
But okay, let me say this last thing, and I'll end it. I went to get my hair cut, right?
Yeah.
And it was just a fixing up of something. And this Colombian lady, she charged me $30, right?
Okay.
And I was so happy because it was so messed up the first time. I gave her 20 tip.
Yeah.
I just gave her too much. So I referred my mom to her. I knew that her
Oh.
price was 30 to 40, right? Guess how much she charged my mom?
50 to
Yup.
60.
She charged my mom 50. And
Because
so
you
then
set
I
the
did it
precedent
because I
of
set the
giving that
precedent,
extra.
and then I stopped going to her. The next time my mom went to her, guess how much she charged my mom?
She reduced it.
40,
Yeah,
her
she
regular
reduced it.
price.
She reduced
I
it.
like you shoot yourself in the foot. There are certain industries,
Oh,
and like if
shoot.
you do tip anybody that does landscape or anything like that, you will catch them off guard because it's just not a thing in that industry. So you have to know, I think, which industries, and you
Interesting.
can
I never knew that.
pervert or
Okay.
corrupt like certain.
Alright.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, you could corrupt an industry or pervert
Yeah.
them.
Oh,
Yeah, I didn't know that
Yeah.
perspective. Yeah.
But I'm telling you right now, she charged my mom 50, and my mom said, Blanca, she was like, I do think that was overpriced because my mom had short. It took her like 15, 20 minutes to do my
Right.
mom's hair, and I was like, oops.
Yeah.
I knew it was me, and then I stopped, and she went back down to 40.
Mm.
And that's
Holy
an industry
cow.
that you do expect tipping.
Tipping.
But
Yes,
sometimes you
yes.
can do too much, and then
Then it becomes
Now I see what you're
over the
doing
limits
with your friend
over the
earlier.
limits,
So
and
yeah.
then they want
Yeah.
to push the threshold beyond what's acceptable or what
Yeah.
should be acceptable.
And one thing, last we got to say, I don't want to go to Panera and necessarily. Sometimes I do give the change as a tip. Like if it's $15.30, I'm like $6 or $1.
You make it, yeah.
Or $1. Sometimes
you
I
round
will do
up,
$1 or $1.50. But truly, you're just taking my order.
Right.
The people over there are making the stuff, and like it doesn't even matter. They're getting paid to do that. I'm not eating in. I'm taking it to go. I'm not gonna even sit there and eat when you gotta clean
Yeah.
out
What about
the
the people
table.
that you do the order on the app and you just grab it out? You just grab your bag, like you don't even interact with the human.
That's
Yeah,
another
and
conversation.
Well,
which we
sometimes
didn't go
I
into
feel
tonight.
bad
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I don't know if they're gonna see if I tipped or not, and I'm like, are they gonna like mess up my food because they saw that I didn't tip on the app?
It could, but it's like, at what point am I? That's I think the question we're trying to get to. At what point are you required to tip? Like, if there's no human service provided, should you tip?
Well, there is human service provided.
Well, because they prepped your
but
food, but that's
standard.
that's the job.
Yeah.
No, it's there's a lot of
I don't
there's a
get
lot of
tipped
weird
at my
area here.
job just for doing my job. I don't get a tip.
And if somebody tipped
I mean,
you,
maybe I
you'd
can
be
work
like,
for a bonus,
okay.
but I don't get tipped.
Right. But you'd be like, okay, that's weird. I'll take it.
Oh
I'm
my
not going
God.
to turn it down. But
Oh Lord.
sorry, contractors. I'm like going against. Like, do not tip them. Do not tip contractors.
Hey,
Right.
as much as I dislike John Oliver, I think maybe he's
Was on to something. So we can end it on that note then.
Yeah,
right?
I think so. Yeah. He's well, yeah.
Don't tip your mechanic either.
Sounds good.
Oh Lord.
Look, I did the other day too, $90.